Okay, so welcome to today's Industry Friday, second in the series. My name's Viv Cherry. I'm a lecturer in advertising design and graphic design, and this is Alexander Pays, who is a graduate from the Art and Design BA and MA and works in Guilford Street Press. So we're here today to talk about the press, to explain a little about what it is, what we do, how it operates, and how that might have an impact on you as art and design students. So what is the press? So essentially, Guilford Street Press is a print and publishing press. It's based in the School of Art and Design. Quite literally, it's on the first floor opposite the screen printing studios. The press works really closely with the school, designing publications for the school's promotional needs. Work with the right. So the history is that the press started out simply as an idea between staff and students. And then ultimately we got around to establishing it in 2013, but it was facilitated by university funding and the move to this building. Some of you may not know, the students who've been here a little longer will know that we moved over here. It used to be an old fashion factory. And we felt that it was very much in the spirit of manufacture that we continued a working practice here as well as an educational one. So Guilford Street Press charges for its design and production services to external clients and to other university departments. And any money that's made by the press is fed directly back into the press for buying equipment and for funding its operations. It's named Guilford Street Press very firmly to place ourselves as an integral part of the School of Art and Design, but more importantly, as central to Luton's creative quarter. So we exist not purely as an educational establishment. Most importantly as well, the press is an experimental place where students and staff can collaborate, learn and develop ideas for design and for publication. Guilford Street Press essentially has 4 really important roles. So it's an in-house press, as I'm saying. It publishes print for wider use. It operates as a design studio. We design things for the school, the whole university, and external clients. It's a teaching and learning environment for students to have access to bespoke publishing equipment. And it's an employability enhancement scheme, which was where the bit comes in for affecting you guys. We offer internships and work experience. So just to sort of give you a bit of an overview, probably the easiest thing to understand what the press is and what it does is give some examples of the kind of work that we've done. And a lot of you will have unwittingly seen an awful lot of work that we're doing. So a lot of the printed matter is directly for the School of Art and Design. So we publish, design, print and publish exhibition catalogues, course information, student handbooks, and promotional literature that we are commissioned to do by university departments. If there are any first years in here, you will each have received a handcrafted, bespoke student handbook. Those of you in the second and third year, you'll see that we're sort of upping the levels of fanciness, so sorry about that. It's slightly better than the ones that you received last year. All in the spirit of growing. We are involved in producing posters for publicity. So pretty much any posters that you see in and around, certainly the School of Art and Design and possibly the wider university that are of good quality, are probably produced by the press. Ignore the rest of the ones from the university. Nothing to do with us. there's a series of posters that we produced for Media Junction, for example, and film clubs and so on, and any of the exhibitions in and around the school. We produce printed matter or printed books, sorry, for external clients. This one was...
Okay, so this one's a little bit difficult to explain, but basically in the Department of Applied Social Studies, there's a research body of sorts, and they came to us earlier this year and asked for reports based on these interviews that they did with young people throughout Europe. It's quite a delicate subject, and we decided illustration would probably be the best way to approach it. So we actually commissioned an illustration student from last year, and her and I worked quite closely together putting this book together, trying to sort of express what these young people have gone through through typography and illustration. And it was quite a successful thing, actually, in the end. Got really good feedback.
And that's a really good example of why we wanted you to see work like this, because it kind of summarizes everything that the press is about. So collaboration. So straight away we've got a graduate from art and design doing the designing. We've got current illustrators being commissioned and paid to produce illustrations. We've got our client being internal to the university, but with very external needs. They have an audience who they need to communicate their research publication to, and also some really sensitive subjects that require creative thinking and a kind of, as Alex is explaining, quite a delicate thought process as to how you deal with that material. And it's very much sort of covers a lot of the sort of the principles that Guilford Street Press is about in terms of applying our skills and challenging us and other people as to what we can produce. We're also very interested in just producing stuff that looks beautiful, which we think that does. We are working with external clients as well. So again, you can probably talk more eloquently about this because you're the designer.
So back in August, we got approached by Luton Culture, which is a branch of Luton Council. They organize all sorts of cultural events throughout the town. All the things that happen at the libraries and at museums are basically run by them. And they wanted us to pitch a campaign, a branding campaign for their Christmas for their Christmas events this year. Massive project, so it's still ongoing. We're doing all sorts of promotional material, from posters to leaflets to there's a bus banner. So it's a big project, and these are just some examples of kind of how the whole project has evolved. Like the first one, top corner is like one of the first posters that we did for it, and through like a very elaborate feedback process, back and forth with the client, it's gotten to this. But there are, shows you how much the project can develop from beginning to somewhere in the middle, because we haven't finished it yet.
And again, it's sort of a really nice example of how sort of branding can sort of go through to all sorts of creative outcomes. But also what's happening when we bring in external clients. Again, ultimately, it's beneficial towards you because we're bringing people who are aware of some of the cultural events that are happening in and around Luton and beyond, and inviting them in to see the School of Art and Design. And then that leads to other jobs. So, yeah, go on.
Add one more thing. This is actually also a collaboration project with an illustration student. Kind of just goes to show how much work can actually go into this, because she has done so many illustrations. There have been, like I said, the feedback process can be quite elaborate, and the client will have said to us, actually, no, can you change the illustrations, make them a bit more like this, a bit more like that, and you have to work really, really fast. Because you've got to stick to the client's schedule, basically. They need it by the end of the week. You've got to get it done by the end of the week. So she's done really, really well with what's been required.
It's been a great sort of learning process for her. And as I said, each job tends to lead to something else. So in itself, it's illustrating the fact that we're constantly talking to you guys about the importance of networking, about the importance of grabbing entrepreneurial opportunities and how one thing leads to the next. And the same for Guilford Street Press is there to illustrate that to you, that that job has gone on to lead to other branding projects. And the reason why there's a picture of toilets is that it also leads on to so some environmental opportunities. Hi. Some opportunities for wayfinding, vinyls, signage, and so on, and giving us really loads of possibilities for future work and projects. So this is something that, again, in terms of your interest in how you can branch out, this could always be something that you guys get involved in, not only sort of seeing the work that we're doing around you, but potentially getting involved in creating the work with us as well, and learning from a lot of this networking opportunity that we're always sort of involving ourselves in. So just to sort of continue explaining a bit more how we operate, but also how that impacts you, we can sort of go through some of the equipment that we have. And again, unwittingly, you'll have all seen the use of the equipment that we have in Guilford Street Press, partly because we've given you stuff that has been done by the press, and partly because some students have already been involved in it. So for example, one of the pieces of equipment that is very, very central to the press, the way we design and the way we think, is our risograph printer, which is a really, really lovely piece of equipment. Some of you might be familiar with it already if you've had them at your previous institutions, or even had a go with it here yet, I'm not quite sure. But essentially, if you haven't heard of it before, a risograph printer is it's a really simple but actually quite cost-effective printing technique. It gives a really beautiful quality to printed materials because unlike a digital printer, it uses real ink, so it's soya-based inks. So again, it's fairly environmentally friendly. And as I said, cost effective. You can produce lots and lots and lots of copies, hundreds of copies of something that you design. Being affordable, it really allows for lots of experimentation. There's been a huge rise in the popularity of riso printing over the past few years. You'll know of, or you may have heard of, a few presses that use riso printing, including Hato or Ditto Press, which are also design studios which sort of center their work around riso printing. It has some of the quality of screen printing in as much as it allows for playing around with overprinting. And in our press, we currently have 7 different color drums, so you can sort of overprint with those colors, but it allows for loads of sort of experimentation and sort of play in terms of how we use it. I'll sort of explain that as well as I can. Okay, so that's our riso printer. We have lots of bookbinding equipment. We have a tape binding machine, a perfect binder, a hard cover binding, spiral coil binding, and corner cutting. It's probably easier if you afterwards come and look at some of the examples of some of the publications that we're producing, because what we do is, because we've got all this sort of lovely, like, sweetie shop type equipment that we like playing with, we tend to just invent excuses to use it. So every time we get a new job, we'll decide to have cut corners or a different type of spiral bound or a different special color. But essentially, we're equipping the press with all of the sort of experimental equipment that allows us, and indeed you, to do as much playing as possible. That's very much the spirit of the press. We also have an electromechanical guillotine, which allows cutting down of multiple copies. So if you are producing books, comics, graphic novels, magazines, multiple issues of posters, you can trim them down very easily, hence it being a press rather than simply a design studio, because we're allowing multiple publications. So again, this kind of really illustrates how the press is there to encourage and support your entrepreneurial spirit. Those of you who do have a burning desire to publish work, you can do so at very, very low cost. The equipment is all here for you. One of the things that we're really excited by at the moment, probably our latest toy, is the vinyl cutter. Again, any first years here, you'll have seen firsthand our first experiments of using it, so on the front of your handbooks. But obviously the vinyl cutter allows for large-scale vinyls, which has no end of possibilities of where we can take that in terms of wayfinding and environmental graphics and signage and murals, and if you can think of it, we can do it. You can do it. So again, this sort of brings me on about how the press's existence and therefore the equipment in it and the spirit of what we believe in, how it can impact you. So I've talked a little bit already about entrepreneurial opportunities if you are interested in publishing your work. But on a much more sort of straightforward level, it's there to help you promote yourself. So no matter what area you're from, whether you're a fashion designer, an interior designer, you have aspirations of being a jewelry designer, a fine artist, you will need to promote yourself in some way. And we're here to, again, support that. It might be that you want to think about badge making, packaging for your products, business cards, very importantly, handmade portfolios. Those of you nearing either in your third year or in your second year and thinking about your future career, you will know that it's bang on trend at the moment to be making your own bespoke portfolios. I'm sure many of you have your sort of standard and professional looking black portfolio book, but equally so the opportunity is out there for you to be making your own. Whether you want to make multiple copies of self-promotional pieces that you can send out to future clients, galleries, art directors and so on, or whether you want to make a really specialized bespoke book that you can carry around with you to clients, interviews, promotional events and so on. So really do sort of think about how that can affect you. Can't remember if I mentioned previously when I was talking about the equipment, about the heat press. So you could think about how you could apply your branding, your designs, your illustration to as simple as tote bags. Again, very much on trend now that people don't want to be carrying around plastic bags for fear that they might have to pay 5 pence for them. So, you know, maybe the opportunity is now to start selling tote bags. You could get in there whilst the trend is on and be designing your own tote bags and selling them and so on. Talking of which, the Art and Design School does have its own shop, which the more that people are producing stuff, the more that we can have the shop open. At the moment, we tend to limit the shop being open to special events and private views, but we'd like to open it on a weekly basis, dedicate Fridays, for example, to the shop being open. You provide stuff to sell in it, you get the profit directly back. And the more that, again, entrepreneurial and networking opportunities, the more that people know about that, the more that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that people come and buy your stuff and get to know your name and start to get the picture of how things work. So it's all sort of lots of exciting opportunities. I guess the rest of it is really now over to you. So we're sort of talking to you about how the press has some really big learning opportunities. It's a networking tool, it's a space for collaboration between designers, artists, clients, yourselves, staff, technicians. The other thing is to talk a little bit more to you now about actual internship opportunities within the press. So not just internship in terms of working as a designer at the press, but also collaborative opportunities. You might be a photographer, you might be a designer who feels that you have something that you could offer within the press. We work with, as I said, we've already talked about how we work with illustrators and commission them, but there's so many more opportunities beyond that. 3D spatial designers, we could work with you in terms of signage and so on, retail branding, all sorts of opportunities. We offer a rolling internship program. So every half term, or every half termly, 6 weeks, I think that is, students are invited to apply for an internship. But above and beyond simply working as an internship, it might be that you have skills that we could commission to use. That might end up being a paid job. It's not always a paid job, but what we do offer is the fact that anything that you do with the press is instantly something that can go onto your CV. And that's what we're really interested in this School of Art and Design, is not just that you come here to be hugely creative and explore your own personal route and do lots of experimenting whilst you're here, but you all leave with a clear focus on employability. And the press is here to support that. Okay, so anyone instantly getting involved on any level with the press is immediately going to have something they can put on their CV. Okay, and that's what it's all about, whether you literally are writing a physical CV or you're sort of building a portfolio of experience or research work or experimental work, okay? So just to sort of expand a little bit about how we work at the moment. So Alex is the lead designer and studio manager at the press, and then she will work and be supported by student interns or anyone who's collaborating. And then myself and Rachel Gannon also have some involvement in terms of trying to manage the workload a little bit, and all the technicians are very heavily involved in the press as well. We invite students to help Alex in the press, and in exchange you're encouraged to use the Guilford Street Press facilities and use it as a space to produce your work, your publications, and the facilities there. We also suggest that in your time there you propose a project to explore during that period, so you can use the press facilities to help realise that. And then I think this is all negotiable, and probably Colin's the person to speak to about this, but we have we can offer a small remuneration that covers expenses, simply because we're trying to show that we do support ethical employment of students. However, the press is not profit making, it's merely supporting itself at the moment. It might be helpful if I just kind of pass over to Alex, just to maybe say the best things of working at the press, maybe the sort of biggest difference between being a student and actually working as a designer within the press. No, that's great. I mean, it's clear that sort of there's been a vast learning curve, and I guess what we're saying is we'd like to offer up that opportunity to you guys as well. So check out Guilford Street Press's website. Take a look at, or follow us on Instagram. It's Guilford Press Instagram, so you can sort of see some of the recent things that we've been doing. And then we are going to say, if anyone has a burning desire to be more involved in the press, then probably the first instance, come and sort of register your interest with us now. We can sort of take down some details from you. But obviously, there's hopefully going to be lots of opportunities over the course of your, whether it's 3 years, 2 years, or 1 year, depending on what level of the course you're in. So do stay in touch with us. You can email Alex at studio at guildfordstreetpress.org, or speak to me or Rachel anytime. But do please come and give us your contact details if you're interested on an immediate level, and come and have a look at some of the publications that we've been doing sort of over the past 6 months, just to give you a bit of an idea of the other things that we do. Other than that, I don't know if there's anyone has any burning questions they'd like to ask now. For you to use the press, so there's very clearly set out risograph prices, which I couldn't reel off the top of my head, but they are on the outside of the press door. Anything that is charged is kept purely at cost price. Okay, so we've kept it as low cost as possible. I couldn't tell you exactly what the riso is, but it is fairly cost effective. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because also the other thing about the riso, why it's housed within the press, is that you wouldn't be able to use it without a little bit of training, and we would always have a technician on hand to show you how to use it and run through the process. And then when you're fully confident and competent and you have a big job that you want to do, then you can sort of go ahead. Because what we wouldn't want you to do is come in with your 100 sheets of carefully chosen paper and waste it because you're not quite sure what you're doing. Yeah, please do.
On that note, we actually have quite an extensive paper archive upstairs, so if you're ever doing any courses for screen printing or printing or bookbinding or whatever, and you want to know, okay, what's available for me out there in terms of paper, we're actually got loads of samples, so please feel free to come up and have a look.
And of course, the other equipment doesn't incur any cost at all. If you want to be trimming corners or pressing your designs onto T-shirts and tote bags and
guillotine, you're going to need that for loads of things.
so it's purely the riso, I think, isn't it, that we have to charge minimal costs for. Is that okay? Yes, thank you. I didn't think to mention that further. Anyone else got any things? Well, you would do T-shirts if you're the designer. Yes, we have done T-shirts before quite frequently, but yeah, absolutely. You come up with the designs, they can be heat pressed onto the T-shirts.
T-shirts, tote bags, about A3 in size, I'd say. So, well, just a little bit smaller than A3 actually. So.
Neckerchiefs, samples of fabric. Yeah, definitely.
But that sort of work, I'd say, you want to go screen print first, so speak with screen printing technicians about that, and then we come over to the press and heat it so it doesn't go off.
Yeah, anything that you have as a potential idea, do sort of shout up, and anyone who knows anything about the press can help advise you. Yeah. Anyone else got anything they'd like to know in the first instance? Ooh. Okay, well, I think the screen's telling me to shut up was probably fairly good timing. But yes, hey, if anyone's got anything they want to chat about, please do. If you're specifically interested in internships, please come and tell us now. And otherwise, just come and visit, or even just pop your head in. Alex is quite often on her own and lonely, so go and say hello to her. All right, thank you very much. Weeks, half a term. Yeah. There might be scope for it to be in the summer. Alex tends to go away during the summer, so whilst ever she's not there, then we wouldn't run it. But it could potentially be sort of the July period. We get very busy then as well, and actually that's when students disappear, but Alex is busy. So.
Would it be time or just kind of when it fits you?
It totally fits around your curriculum. In fact, that's one of the things I probably should have said. We're suggesting 1 day a week or 2 half days, because that sort of, allows it to fit around what you're doing and still do your own work, but, be able to do bits and pieces as well. Go and, yep, I think the sheet's down there, as long as you put your name, your course, and your email address, and your level of study. Hi.
Is it possible for you to print onto newspaper quality paper and with a very similar sort of ink?
So using the RISO,
Using any of your equipment.
I imagine the RISO has a limit, a minimum weight that you can put through it,
Yeah.
and it has a maximum weight that you can put through it.
Yeah.
And as long as it's not glossy and it's in between the minimum and the maximum,
Yeah.
then yes.
So in theory.
In theory, the answer is yes. Sometimes it's necessary to do a test. The technicians might know a little bit more clearly, and there's some specifics, as I said, in terms of the weight. So before you went out and bought lots of paper, you'd have to sort of test, check it. Off the top of my head, I know the maximum weight is something like 210, which is not card, like fairly
it's
thick.
thin card.
Yeah, and I know we've put through almost a newsprint type quality before, so
it's possible.
yeah.
That's cool. It's just for my fire-made project, I need a newspaper trimming, that sort of thing.
Oh, it specifically has to be a newspaper trimming, does it?
As close as that as possible.
Okay.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, if it's got ink on it already, that might cause an issue. But
I'm going to design based on an advert for a newspaper.
Oh, got you.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be something that could be done.
It's because my fire-made project is graphic design used in movies, so like movie props.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
And one of them is a advertisement for a razor in a newspaper that's been like cut out.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just I need to make that one thing.
Okay. No, it sounds like the RISO would be something you could do with
And
it. Why don't you come and do some tests?
Yeah.
Because you're in the experimental phase
Yeah,
of your FMP, so whilst you're still working out things, why don't you
try it out and see what happens?
Absolutely.
And I'm
yeah.
going to need it to print on fabric as well, like
the
one of your
heat press.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you'll
heat
probably
press.
screen press and then screen print and then sort of heat press it to keep it in place. Yeah.
And another question: can you print on metal with any of your equipment?
That would have to be screen printing.
Screen printing, but it's still possible.
Yes. Or vinyls. You could have
vinyl.
vinyl.
Yeah, that'd be work.
That might be the best.
That cost? Like, is that
Again, I think just whatever the cost
The
of
cost
however
of the
much
materials,
vinyl you need.
That's cool. Because that would be a really good way of doing it.
That'd be really exciting, yeah.
That's cool, thank you.
Lots of opportunities have arisen there already, haven't
Yeah,
they?
thank
Brilliant. Oh, you're very welcome. Okay.
Interested in this kind of promotion.
Okay.
For example, somebody needs a lot of postcards with
Yes.
picture.
Okay, what you need to do is jot your name, contact details, but also put next to it that you're a photographer who's interested in offering commissions, because quite often actually we do have jobs coming up that require photography, and we just ask whoever is available, or sometimes we have to look for people.
I heard that in Australia there's one place something like that. They just print a lot of postcards with young photographers pictures in it. They just put the name of photographer on the back.
Right.
It's like
And then promoting you at the same time. Well, certainly, I think obviously what we do is whenever we either use an illustrator, for example, the illustrator's name will go into the publication that we've just done, which will help them promote. But yes, if you're interested in being able to, definitely, we frequently need, what year are you in? Of photography? Oh, and what's your name? Gianna. Juliana. Joanna, sorry. Actually, that's really interesting because we quite regularly need photographers generally for things. So definitely leave your details and next to it put a big star saying that you're a photographer who's interested in commissions, and hopefully we'll be in touch. All right, thank you for that. Brilliant.